Welcome to the Secret Rugby Lives, made just for you by BrightRock, where we meet some celebrities you know well, but not for their rugby ability or their rugby story, and find out why the game means so much to them. And we kick off with the secret rugby life of David Higgs, a man you know well from restaurants around South Africa, from cooking shows on television, and from dazzling us with incredible food. But behind all of that culinary genius, there's a rugby story as well.
Obviously, coming from Namibia, football was our thing, soccer. And then moving down to Cape Town when I was about 10, 11 years old, went into boarding school, and that's where the rugby became compulsory in a way.
Now, we would have expected great things simply based on who else used to live on your street in Namibia.
Listen, don't even joke. Myself and Percy Montgomery grew up in the same street. Not even in the same town, Lagoon Street, Walvis Bay, and more or less the same time. I think Percy's probably about my age. So, yeah, there's my claim to fame, by default, by association.
You didn't quite pull on a Springbok jersey, but you did have a crack at rugby, not just at school, but also during the army days when the rugby career came to a rather sudden end.
Yeah, the interesting thing about my career in the army was that I played for artillery. And obviously not many teams. And I remember one game we played against Western Transvaal at that stage, and Baron du Plessis, I think it was Baron du Plessis, he was on the wing or the centre, I can't remember exactly which one. And my strategy, because the guy was twice my size, was to get to Baron before he got up to speed. So he would get the ball and I would be on him before he ran over me. So that was my strategy. But it came to an abrupt end when we played the prison services in Diepkloof one quiet Saturday, where after the whistle blew for the start, a fight broke out 3 fields down with our players. So I came around. I was playing on the wing, and I came around the scrum to tackle the flank that came off the side of the mall, and got a boot in the face, broke my nose, as you can see, probably. And I just said, no, I'll drive the guys to the games, but I don't think I'll get involved.
So goodbye to a very promising rugby career, but I know it's still something you're very passionate about. You still watch a fair amount of rugby?
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. You know, always be a Stormers supporter, Western Province supporter. One of my first games is, I don't know if you remember, at the Newland Stadium, the old Newland Stadium, where the kids, we were allowed to sit on the front. And I would never forget Carl du Plessis coming down the wing on the line, and you could actually hear his legs thundering. You know, it was the most incredible. I'll never forget it. So yeah, rugby's in our blood, you know.
It's a game that's got one or two similarities to life in the kitchen, particularly when it comes to ferocity, because I've seen some fairly fierce rugby players, I think of the haka in particular, and then I've seen a certain chef I know rather well just once or twice in the kitchen looking almost as fierce.
Yeah, look, you know, there's always a certain amount of pressure that's involved with both sports. But it's how we handle this that makes us that makes us who we are. You know? So yeah.
You've got a lot of rugby to look forward to later this year, as do we. Before we get your thoughts on what might happen, what about going back? You played against Baron du Plessis. You mentioned Carl du Plessis. Was there anybody else who was on the poster of David Higgs's bedroom wall?
You know, Donnie Gabu and his sidesteps was pretty much in my. I don't know if you remember, the Huisgenoot used to bring out the middle page was always a rugby player.
I'm far too young for that, David.
Yeah, anyway, it was in those days. And my whole room was plastered with these. That was the 80s. And so Donnie Gabu was always a massive hero for me. But obviously Bob Skinstad and what he brought to the game in that era with that whole team where they were backflipping, they could do nothing wrong. Remember that? I mean, you remember that very well.
I do indeed.
Exactly. So you know, like those were the moments for me that I will never forget. You know.
And I'm not surprised you mentioned Bob, because he was one of those creative, inventive, eye-catching sorts, and that speaks to exactly who you are as a chef, continually making stuff that's fun and eye-catching and creative.
Yeah, I just keep my tongue in my mouth.
All right, looking ahead, we're all watching South Africa very closely. Who else do you think poses a threat for South Africa?
Man, Dan, I don't know. You know, I think with all the rugby that's going on in France with their league and in the UK with their league, I think you have to look at the England and France as threats. Obviously the All Blacks and Australia, but I don't know. I think the Northern Hemisphere are always going to be a threat.
And finally, number of award-winning restaurants, any number of awards, great television shows. It's been an incredible career in cooking. If you could go back, would you change it for a life in rugby?
Not rugby. Football maybe, but not rugby.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that secret rugby life of yours, David Higgs, another Namibian superstar. The secret rugby life of David Higgs, made just for you by BrightRock.